It's an older engine, and at this stage it's giving some trouble to John McCormack. Was in 5th place when he went to the pits. Looking now at the gap between Bond and Perkins, and they are well within a second of each other as we look at Warwick Brown still in the lead. But a grand scrap developing, I think, for 3rd and 4th place.
Look at Colin Bond nibbling away at the rear of Larry Perkins. Perkins over the dog leg, chased by Colin Bond, and this is the best dice at the moment. They're running 3rd and 4th. Perkins 3rd, Bond 4th. A long way behind the leader, but it's the best part of the race at this stage.
A great dice, and the situation is also that Perkins at the moment is the man in the box seat to win the series. If he finishes in 3rd place, he'll get 13 points, which would bring him up to 34 in front of Alf Costanzo with 28. They're on their 35th lap at the moment, 36. They've completed 35. And look at Bond looking down the inside of Larry Perkins there. If he finishes in 4th place, he's still got enough points to win the series. And that's with the proviso that sufficient cars keep running so that when Kennedy takes his 1-minute penalty, he's not within 3 positions of Larry Perkins. So cop that for some mathematics. But that's the situation. Perkins at this stage is potentially the winner of the series, the retirement of Costanzo. But Kennedy is not entirely out of it. And if he keeps the bit between his teeth, it's an enormous task for him, almost impossible, but not quite. Perkins, though, being kept extremely honest, if a little untidy, by Colin Bond there going so well in car number 14. An old and fairly unique BT43 Brabham. The BT number standing for Brabham Toranac, and look at the extra speed he's got on the straight. That's been one of Bond's problems through the series, has been lack of steam in the engine department, or lack of go. He's had steam on occasions, because he's had a fair amount of trouble with that car of assorted nature. He's had a number of fuel pump belt drives go, he's had overheating, he's had a wing come adrift in Adelaide, he's had handling problems pretty well all through the series, but Colin Bond all the way through has demonstrated his enormous ability to get out and to race and to go quickly in almost any type of motor car.
Pick up race leader Warwick Brown, car 111, heading now towards the dog leg and the downhill dip into BP corner with a big lead now, very, very big lead. But at this stage, and let's hope we're not jinxing him, he seems to be going comfortably. One into the wall is car 15, is Terry Hook. Blue car further back, and in various sections of the circuit, the track is starting to resemble a very small parking lot. There are cars stuck into walls and off the track in all sorts of peculiar positions. Warwick Brown and David Kennedy off the circuit. That's the end of the Formula One challenge. Have no idea what went wrong. David Kennedy, having been in 2nd position with a 1-minute penalty, is now off the circuit, which of course will bring Perkins up into 2nd position. And Warwick Brown, our race leader. Colin Bond, on that basis, will be in 3rd position.
Well, Larry Perkins then only has to finish now, with 40 laps completed by him and by Warwick Brown and Colin Bond, only has to finish to take the Rothmans title for 1979. Brown on his winning way at this stage with a margin of about 18 seconds over, well, that was over 2nd placed Kennedy, and it's considerably more than that. Back now to 2nd placed as he laps John McCormack out on the circuit again. 2nd placed Perkins now, 3rd placed Bond, and they have completed 41. That's the leader, Warwick Brown. He's coming up now to complete 41. He's on his 42nd, and it's a 57-lap race, longer than the other races in the series, 150 kilometres. That's the race position. Look at the front of Colin Bond's car. The nose has had a little bit of a touch somewhere. Colin's had a little bit of a misjudgment, I'd say. And in 3rd place at this stage, he's lost a lot of ground to, and is heading to the pits, I think. He's lost a lot of ground to Larry Perkins in car number 12. He's looking there and trying to see how bad is it, should he call to the pits. But when you're doing 150 odd miles an hour and you've got a bit of the front of the car flapping about, it's far better to go to the pits for safety, see what the situation is, see if you can rectify it. But the aerodynamics, if he comes out again, the aerodynamics of that car are going to be upset something dreadfully. Bond in 3rd place into the pits at the end of his 41st lap. as Brown has completed now 42. This is really going to throw that car out. What bad luck for him. He had the back end of the car, the aerodynamics, go astray in the last series. Undo the quick fasteners and take it off will be the only solution. Colin Bond, quick conference with his pit crew. Off with the front. Is he going out again? Gloves off. As perhaps he fixed up the radiator himself as well. And it looks as though the problem's a bit greater than just the nose on the car. Throttle sticking. That's probably the problem. They were fiddling with the throttle linkages there. I would say he's had a throttle linkage problem. He's probably stuck. He's probably run off when he's backed off for a corner. He's stayed on the throttle, raced on ahead and hit something, but he's off again. No downforce now on the nose with the aerodynamics thrown right out. But Colin Bond back out on the circuit. We'll give you his race position in just a moment. But the situation is this, that Warwick Brown in 111 leads from Larry Perkins in 12. He's in second place. Third place now will be unbelievably John Wright in car number 76. And John McCormack, despite a pit stop, could well be in fourth place. Brown has completed 44. And so too now, in just a moment, will Larry Perkins complete his 44th. That's the situation. A man that's been making a couple of errors throughout the race and a few more through the series. Larry Perkins in 12. Still in second place though, despite 2 off circuits in this race so far. And Larry there, always exuberant, always with the tail of the car out. Loves power, loves a car that he can really throw around. He's driven Formula One for both the BRM and the Surtees team, but neither of those teams are winning teams. He'd have been taken into the Martini-Brabham team probably, except that the Martini people wanted a more experienced Formula One pilot, and they insisted on John Watson, who at that stage was interested in switching teams, and they took him into the team. Larry Perkins missed the drive despite a tryout in the Japanese Grand Prix in 1976. And since then he's been struggling to get back up into the top echelon of Formula One or Formula 2 motor racing, hoping this year for a good competitive drive in European Formula 2. But some real news with us here at this stage is up in the commentary box. We've got David Kennedy, absolutely covered in sweat and looking no doubt fairly morose about it all. David, what's been the problem? What put you out?
Very disappointing actually. As I said before the race, and I feared the gear linkage problem. You know, I was worried whether the gearbox or the gear linkage or some way in the transmission would give me a trouble. In fact, actually, the gear knob came up in my hand. And as you know, and as you can see, I'm not that big a lad. But
well, you keep your hand plastered, in fact, because you've got so many gear changes around this circuit.
That's right, yeah,
it's hard work.
Yeah, it's about 4 changes, actually. Sorry, 1 change every 4 seconds.
We're looking at the moment at John Wright, who's in third place in car 76, 2 laps in arrears. David, there's been an enormous dropout race. Has the circuit been slippery, for instance?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, down at that Ampol corner, the very tight right-hander, to get 1 foot off the line and you're off the track. It's that bad, in fact, because all the shingle and scale and all the stones and bits of rubber gets thrown out on the outside, and you go 1 foot wide on that, and as you see, the cars go into the wall. One had to be very, very careful there. In fact, that's the case all the way around the track.
Well, Colin Bond, we can see, is having a little bit of an off-circuit out of Sutton's corner. But he's back onto the track, but there is, in fact, an enormous number of damaged cars down there at Ampol. And as you say, you've got to be absolutely precise on your line in that area.
Yeah, super careful, in fact. There's no point in going quickly there. In fact, up on the bridge as well, there's another place, and further on, where Larry Perkins spun. Another 1 foot off the line, and again, you've gone.
We're looking at Colin Bond, who's in earnest pursuit of John Wright in 76. He's off in pursuit of him. Look at him without the front on the car. What do you think of that, David? How would you like to be driving that?
How we can manage that is more than I know. That's one hell of a handful. In fact, what the front wing does and creates a considerable downforce on the car, and that balances off the rear wing. Now, if you lose either front wing or rear wing, the car is just a pain to drive.
In fact, that has been he's been suffering heavy understeer in that car through the series anyway.
Oh, no, that'll only maximise it here. He's in real trouble there. In fact, I think he's just playing to finish now at that stage.
Doing a great job, Colin Bond, there in car number 14, trying to overtake John Wright in 76, the man immediately in front of him. And they have completed at this stage 50 laps, and it's a 57-lap race. David, a big disappointment to you, no
Yeah,
doubt.
very much so, and more so, in fact, to my sponsors, Jack Kelly, who came across from England to see this race, and Teddy Yip from Hong Kong, and all the people that were involved in running the show. In fact, the average spectator really doesn't get a chance to see what goes on behind the scenes and the finance and the organising of teams and mechanics and one thing. It's one hell of a show, in fact, and for a few minutes you see it on television.
You were advised, of course, that you'd been penalised 60 seconds for jumping the start.
Yeah, in fact, I found that, well, can't say obnoxious, really, because with fair dues, I felt the flag was up for more than the mandatory 5 seconds. And the problem with these Formula 1 cars, you can't have the clutch in too long, otherwise it begins to pull against the engine, and that's what's happened. I couldn't stop the car rolling. And in fact, the only other option I had was cut the engine. I would rather a minute than rather cut the engine.
Looking at Warwick Brown in 111, who's leading it at this stage with 51 completed, and he's on his 52nd. Do you think, David, you could have caught him? You had a big job in front of you.
There was a fair few seconds gap. I reckon the only way I could have caught Warwick at this stage was for him to make a mistake. I was more concerned, in fact, about Perkins. Keeping very careful check of my pit signals, hoping against hope that he would have fallen out. All due respects to Larry, a fine pilot on that, but at moments like this, you just drive for yourself and yourself only.
So this is the race situation at this stage, with Bond now up into 3rd place. Colin Bond has got John Wright, so despite a pit stop, Bond is into 3rd place in car number 14. Car 76, John Wright, has fallen back to 4th. So the race situation, there it is. Oh, well, Bond back behind him again. So that's the dice for 3rd and 4th place at this stage. Wright in 76.
Oh.
And Colin Bond's gone. Round he goes and recovers. Poor old Colin really must have gross understeer problems.
God, he must be driving his heart out, in fact, to stay with any cars with the condition of his car, knowing full well what it's like to handle and what it was like before the race. In fact, a tremendous credit to Colin that he held it and got going again with no abatement in the speed.
Here's the situation again. What's the replay? Colin Bond chasing John Wright. Round he goes.
Just showing how quickly one can lose these cars. You know, it wasn't an eighth of a second, and that car's back was around where the front was. It's
right.
That critical, in fact.
And a driver becomes very attuned, David, to keeping his sense of direction in a spin like that.
Absolutely, yeah. In fact, I think we'd make good ballet dancers.
Well, your size, you're the right build as well. Warwick Brown, they're doing a great job in 111. Has now completed 53, is on his 54th lap. The other part of race driving, David, that's interesting, it's a very hot day here today. You're in very cramped conditions in the cockpit. Fitness must be essential.
Yeah, absolutely, of paramount importance, no question about it. In fact, after halfway through this race, I was really beginning to perspire badly. And now I do about 1 to 2 hours training a day, either playing squash or doing isometric exercise. And still, in these cars, it's a phenomenal job. Basically, in fact, because the temperatures rise, get so hot, you have a radiator in front of you, the heat pours back into you. It's with this 3-piece fire suit that one wears, it's exceptionally difficult, in fact, to remain cool. In fact, I've got a pipe that runs into my overalls and blows me up with air, but I'm damned if it makes any difference.
Okay, well, Larry Perkins here doing a great job staying in front of Warwick Brown. Brown's not much interested in getting past him. And as we see there, Terry Hook's parked car, we see Perkins still in 2nd place despite 2 driving errors. Brown in behind him, and as you can see, content to let him go.
Yes, I think that's the way he's playing. In fact, it would be quite a unique situation, in fact, if you found the leader to lap everyone, including the 2nd place man. But I think discretion is the better part of valour here, at least so it appears on Warwick's point. And Larry, at the best of times, can get very, very hot behind the wheel. So I think Mr. Warwick would be quite brave, in fact, if he went on the inside. So he's holding back.
Okay, well, thank you, David Kennedy. Very sorry to hear of your misfortune. Bad luck for you and for the Theodore team, who with good grid positions for this race, both of you fallen out of it and out of the series. Thank you, David Kennedy. Perkins there in 12 has now completed, well, Brown, let's say, has completed 55. He's on his 56th lap, Warwick Brown. It's a 57-lap race, so he's 1 from the finish. Warwick Brown there has not put a foot wrong, and that's not...
John
you can
Wright
say that for very few people in the race.
John Wright in car 76 in 3rd position, and a remarkable effort considering this driver last season was the TAA Formula Ford champion. And to jump into one of these things, being hustled along here by Colin Bond in 14, is a remarkable effort. A driver with virtually unlimited potential. John Wright running in this race in 3rd position. As we go back to race leader Warwick Brown in no way interested in trying to catch up and pass Larry Perkins at this late stage of the race. It would be purely suicidal to contemplate such a thing with so much at stake, particularly in the area of prize money and a win which could get him that big drive in the States next season.
Brown half a lap from victory. Brown half a lap from victory as he comes onto the bridge